Hey everyone, Doug here from 2 Plus Tough, just ready to settle in for another live stream. This is day number 4 of our Army in a Week, where basically I'm just trying to crank out as much Stormcast as possible before the next wave of stuff, which is going to be Forbidden Power, which is coming pre-order this weekend. Yeah, so cranking real hard to get the Celestin Prime, also known as CP, on the table. So let's see here. Now I actually have quite a bit to go to get a complete army, but I actually already have, what, 12? No. I have almost 1,200 points done, like actually done, based and everything like that. So yeah, I just want to give myself a break and paint this guy a little bit. So basically tonight I'm going to be doing 2 parts, if you didn't catch the title, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is just going to be a shorter one because in a little bit here I'm going to pause, go cook dinner for my wife, and yeah, going to be doing that. So let's get started. Basically, yeah, I'm going to begin with the, what are they called? The little swirly-doos. Orrery, I don't know, something like that. So let's grab our paints. Using a lot of the purple. Let's see. So, what are you cooking? I am grilling us some burgers tonight. Because it is a pretty stinking nice evening here in the greater Seattle area. I don't know, all of a sudden my voice just got really coarse sounding, but yep, burger night. I've been trying to include more veggies, so basically we cut out the bun and do, what do we do on there? Avocado and, it's a little bit too much. I'm going to thin that down a little bit. Avocado and like a grilled onion type thing. And it is delicious. So I'm doing right now is just building up with a lighter purple up front. Just to kind of, you know, I'm going to be doing pinks and stuff like that, but having a lighter purple certainly helps kind of break up the depth of the, whatever that stuff called. So yeah. I wonder if the Celestin Prime is Karl Franz. That seems to be the internet's best guess. And, you know, if it's not him, I want them to do something with him. Because the way Karl Franz was always described is just like, his soul would be too important to just let it, like, lavish, you know, in the eons. But yeah, what's everyone else working on? Let's get some conversation going right now. Let's see. What up, Doug? How are you doing right now? This is Hugh from Long Beach, California. Hello, Hugh. Oh, yeah. Guessing the prime identity is like guessing who's in the storm vault. Yes. Painting Maniacs. Sweet. I do admittedly have a very soft spot for Bone Splitters. They were actually one of my first armies I ever had fully painted for AOS. Just finished my last Ballista and crew. Unpopular opinion, I'm glad the Tomb Kings are gone. I'm not glad they're gone, I'm just decidedly indifferent. Like, I don't actually care about Tomb Kings, I more care about the people who actually played Tomb Kings, not the ones who were like, bring them back, even though they never owned them. I mean, like, the actual people who had a collection. I feel for them. Anything else, I'm like, meh. Same thing with Bretonia. George from California just finished my KO for Shadespire. Sweet. Do you play Shadespire, or are you just finishing them because you're a KO player or just a model lover? Now that, I don't know if you guys saw the announcement, but they're making a digital version of Shadespire. And now that they're doing that, there's actually a chance that I'll get to play it, and that'd be kind of nice. Because I want to like it. I really do. It's just not easy to find a... Well, I guess there are gaming groups locally now. Actually, I just found out there's an entire new store chain that started supporting Shadespire locally. Uncle's Games, so I might pop in there and check that out eventually. I would just rather be playing a full game of AOS. Let's see. Painter, model lover, KO fan. Just all around good time. Yep. I was going to ask you how they were in Shadespire, but yeah, dude, those models are killer. Those people who fanatically want Tomb Kings or Bretonia back are Total War bandwagon people. Yeah. I don't have enough information to make that assertion, but I do understand. Let's see, okay. So we're just finishing our first layer of swirly-doos. The Sloth Bear. Hey Doug, just finished building 24 skinks, 6 Rickbird and a Carnosaur. Just wanted to ask what you'd like to see from a new Seraphon battle tome, lore-wise or model-wise. Great vids, by the way. Yeah, so what would I want from a Seraphon? Was it lore-wise and model-wise? Okay. We have this discussion actually today in my local friends group about like what models do we think that they are going to clear out or redo or like that. I don't know. On some level, I'm a pessimistic, and I'm like, they're going to go the easy route and probably not redo a whole lot. Probably not get rid of a whole lot. I don't think the line's going to change drastically. I'd love it if we had a new Slon model, just because they've just made... I mean, the Slon were always super important in the old world too, but I feel like the godlike power that they have attributed to them in the AOS lore warrants something a little more cool looking than what they got now, or at least a better multi-kit, that kind of stuff. So you can at least, if the whole thing is so one character centric, at least give you some diversity and you can model that guy. So like a multi-kit for the Slon. As far as lore, well, there's a few ways they could go, and so if you're not familiar with Seraphon lore, in their battle tome, they're pretty clear about saying like, hey, these are like demons of the stars, and they're summoned from the memories of the Slon of like their best warriors back in the old world, and that's cool. And then they came out with a Malign Portents short story of spawning pools, which is an old world lore thing. And so what I want them to do, I don't necessarily want them to come down definitively and say, this is what the Seraphon are. Because at this point, there are people who like both. It wasn't received very well when it came out, but now that more people are, you know, coming to the game with no prior knowledge of fantasy battles, you know, they need more people who are open to it. So what I want them to do, honestly, is kind of, if you've ever read the Beasts of Chaos Battle Tome, they basically did this cool page spread where it was one page and then 3 columns. And on each one of those columns was like just a possible origin story because no one understands them. And I thought that was the coolest thing where it's, and they described it as like, these are like research documents, like schools of thought have theorized, and like one of them was like archaeologically backed, like we found this herd stone from forever ago, that kind of stuff. One of them was more like philosophy oriented, like maybe they're just a part of the fabric of the universe because they don't understand. It's so like esoteric on like what the nature of chaos is. My point in all this rambling is to say, like, I would love it if they maintained the credibility of both of those situations, that there is a spawning pool, but yes, somehow they're also tied to memories and light and stuff like that, and that we as mere mortals don't quite understand it, and so we have these schools of thought that you as the player can pick from. So yeah, so what I mean, to emphasize, I want them to clarify what they mean by certain lore topics while still maintaining breathing room for you and I to kind of create our own stories. I think that's... Yeah, let's see here. Oh, I missed a whole bunch. You guys are fast I can keep up with. If I ever miss your question, just question in all caps and then repost it. No, I'll get to it. The great serious question. If there were a faction that you could get rid of and say never existed in Warhammer AOS, what faction would it be? Obviously factions that are still around. If I could get rid of one, I'm gonna give you 2 answers. One is if I could get rid of it by recombining it with something else. For example, like I would get rid of Beastclaw Raiders and roll that into a grander narrative that includes all of the ogres. I like actually their backstory, but I think it would be really cool to have the whole tribe involved with that, like the entire race. As far as if I didn't, like if it wasn't a matter of recombining, it was like model lines, everything disappeared no matter what. I have an answer, but people aren't going to like it. Let me think. Let me think about that one before I say it. That's a tough one, man. Let's see. Well, actually, they kind of got rid. Yeah, because you said it's still around, but what I was going to say was, my first thought was like the forest goblins, but they actually got rid of those when they did Moonclan. They just straight up deleted them. I don't think I really have anything I want to delete, just because the way that they pulled all of the factions together when they reorganized the website, like each faction is now massive. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Let's see. Rubbish. Let's see. Hi, everyone in this chat. Hello. Let's see. Question. Do you think they might ever add a 9th mortal realm as a new way to advance AOS narrative at some point in the future? Since they're all based on magics, I'm not sure if they would add another complete realm, but I wouldn't be surprised if they just kind of almost indefinitely kept adding pocket realms to stuff. Yeah, that seems to be what they were doing. Like, if they want this new exciting place, you know, we'll just tack it on to Shyish, or, you know what I mean, that kind of stuff. I can definitely see them doing that for Infinity. Realm of Sport. Yep. I actually have the Steam edition of Blood Bowl, and I just haven't. I played like the demo for like a hot minute, and I just never had time to pick it up again. Question: do Stormcast who still have their memories have personal lives? My understanding is that they're pretty filled up with duties as far as like we don't. Well, first of all, we don't get a lot of insight to Stormcast in their free time. Just to be super transparent and honest about that one, but I don't know. They're actually reading Soul Wars right now, and one of the main characters, like in his quote-unquote free time, when he should be, I don't know, resting, recharging, I don't know what they do, he's at the library reading a whole bunch of books. Question: are there small realms in AOS besides the 8 major ones? Yes, there's actually tons of them. Each realm has sort of like little pocket realms built inside of them. So there are technically more than like 8 of the major ones. They're just kind of like your big classifications, but within that there are actually many, many, many. There were a few we know about. There was a hidden glade that Alariel hung out in during the Age of Chaos, or at least at the end of it. She was there until the Realmgate Wars, when Archeon struck down Nagash. I think it was called Stygics, was his little pocket realm where he went and recouped for a while. I don't think we know of any pocket realms in Azir right now. What else? Yeah, there's a whole bunch of little ones. There's the one that Slaanesh is being imprisoned in, which is the pocket realm between Olgu and Hish. Cleverly, wait for it, named Olg-Hish. So yeah. that gives them infinite narrative space for both Black Library writers and you and I. Now, one thing interesting about the Pocket Realms is that they're all screwed up in Shyish, because the Necroquake has them like being sucked into a void. Shadespire, yeah, technically Shadespire is kind of this weird. It's not quite. Basically, like Nagash, like picked it up and chucked it in between places. I guess technically it is a little realm unto itself, but it's just a city. I mean, it's a massive city, but question. So there are other pocket realms that aren't inside one of the 8 mortal realms other than Slanesh's prison. Yes, because also the All Points is a pocket realm unto itself, but that's where Archaon's base is. It has gates to every realm, but is not itself inherently tied to any of them. Oh, and Mordum69, are Nurgle demons decent in AOS? They're fantastic. Yeah, if you stick to the strengths of the army, which is playing for the objectives, and you get on those objectives and you just frustrate the heck out of your enemy by grinding them out, Nurgle does quite well. They're one of those armies that asks a question, right? And the question to your opponent is, can you deal with this many plague bearers? And if the answer is no, you pretty much win. Because it takes a disproportionate amount of work to remove them than it does to bring them. Matt Randall, thanks for what you do for the AOS community. Oh, thank you. Very kind of you. Yes, and then there's Blight City. Sorry, I'm trying to remember them all. Yeah, Blight City is the Skaven home, which is kind of its own thing as well. If you hear alert sounds, that's because my phone is blowing up. Because Jack from Rerolling Ones is rocking his Slanesh again, this time against Khorne. I don't remember who we played last time. But he's having a good time. It'll still be a little bit before his army is Rerolling Ones ready. I think my assumption is he wants to wait until the what are they called? Contrast paints come out. Yeah. Do I understand the difference between those small pocket realms and the 8 mortal realms? I'm not sure I understand your question. It's a bit broad. I mean, the difference is their size, scope, and the fact that the 8 mortal realms embody a specific type of magic and the pocket realms don't necessarily. But I mean, they are near infinitely bigger. That -2 to hit with miasma? Yep. Yep, that's what makes Nurgle Demon so good. Is there some added value for the 8 mortal realms being associated with magic? I mean, I'm trying to think how to answer that. Um, are you asking why is it more important to like conquer Akshi rather than like Old Kish or something like that? I'm not sure. Like the value is that they're massive with people to conquer, and the smaller ones don't necessarily. Also, they're full of resources. I mean, the realm of metal is supposed to have like bleeding gold and gems and that kind of stuff. Like, so there's resources abound. Question. So why in the middle of the 8 more realms? So why in the middle of the 8 more realms the ability to support life inside the middle while the rest of the realms regions do not? Hugh, I'm going to reword your question. Tell me if I'm right. Are you asking why is it the center of the realm is far more stable and more inhabitable? I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't really know. I'm gonna give you a big, because Phil Kelly said so. My assumption is they're thinking of them as like moving discs. If you've ever been in a fun house where there's a big circle and it spins, you have to like walk across it or whatever. If you stay on the outside of it, things are really crazy. You spin very fast because you're going around circles. If you stand in the center, you're in a fixed point and you're still turning, but it's not whipping you that distance, and so it's more stable. I'm assuming it's like that. So if magic is more concentrated in the center, it would disseminate outwards, and as you go outward, things get more whippy and crazy, all stuff. That's my assumption. Y'all are asking some baller questions that I just do not have answers to. Honestly, if I'm being super honest, I guess I'm trying to understand why we talk about the 8 mortal realms when there are a bunch of other pocket realms as well. Do the ones a magic allowed to be so big? Yes, Chad. So to be perfectly honest, the reason we talk about the major 8 realms is that was all that the entire lore was focused on when the game came out. They just straight up didn't acknowledge pocket realms. That's actually a later idea that was introduced. It was touched on in the Realm Gate Wars, but they didn't really go into much detail about like Alarials. Like that's the first pocket realm that I remember is them talking about Alarial, hidden away in her little thing. And that's, but it was never really dwelt upon. So my point in saying that is like, you know, it's part of it is the game focuses on it because they didn't have anything else to focus on before. Then they started adding these little micro realms. And I think when they say like we're fighting for the realms, I think that's kind of like a capital M realms, meaning all the minor realms too, all the little pocket things. Like we want chaos gone from all of them. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what's cool is that like there are reasons to fight for the big ones, meaning there are entire countries of people and that kind of stuff there. And then the reasons to fight for the smaller ones tend to be very, very like there's one good reason to fight for the All Gates, and that's to gain control of, you know, to keep Archeon from sending troops everywhere. Like, but that's awesome that like it's smaller in size, but it's more focused in scope of its importance. So that's kind of the trade-off there. You know, just like if you were invading a country or something like that, you're trying to liberate a country, you know, you fight for the whole thing, but there's specific places where you need to actually like do some work, and that's what kind of how I feel about the minor realms. Like if we want to free X country, well, we need to have actions X, you know, in these 3 places, that kind of thing. So that's the best I can do, honestly. As far as what separates them, like the pocket realms, if a pocket realm is part of a bigger one, like a bigger realm, there's a pocket realm within it. They're always themed as the greater one. So, for example, like pocket realms in Shyish, Realm of Death, are all the various afterlives of the cultures within the realms. So that kind of fits in, right? I mean, conquering Shyish would also liberate all of these smaller pocket realms within it and that kind of stuff. And then there's some that are completely removed from all of their realms. And those are the ones that there's usually like a key strategic reason why they want to liberate that the book, whatever book they're talking about that pocket realm goes into. I hope that helps. I feel like I'm rambling, but let me know if it does. I'm happy to answer as many questions as I am able. I will also say, even with the better lore and that kind of stuff that's come out with the new core book, the function of the realms is still, I think, one of the weaker parts of AOS. Not because it's just a bad idea, but because they just haven't fleshed it out on all levels yet. Narratively, what destruction faction is the most interesting to me? It's probably Iron Jaws or Bone Splitters. Would probably be my guess. This thing is gonna look janky AF. I'm so sad he built it before I was able to get a hold of it. It just, the most efficient way to do this stuff is sometimes it's just dry brushing, and it just doesn't always look the best. That's alright, though. He'll look great. Oh, Chad, I'm glad those helped. Nagash is worse. What makes the Bone Splitters and Iron Jaws stand out in your mind? Oh, you wanted and why? For me, they're for different reasons. So the Bone Splitters, I think, have the most interesting tale in relation to Gorkamorka, right? Everyone has their various reasons on why they think Gorkamorka is the best and why they think Gorkamorka chose them, and all these little legends associated with it. But there's, as far as when I think of the realm of beasts and a god that focuses on fighting and war and they seem, if beasts of chaos are the true children of chaos, then the Bone Splitters I feel are the true children of Gorkamorka. Because there's just that wild aspect to them. I just love it. As far as Iron Jaws, I like them for a similar reason. It's more because I think Gordrak came out too early. If they had waited to do Iron Jaws until later, I feel like they would have written it so that Gordrak, in my mind, should be like Marathi, where it's not looking for godhood, but it is a legitimate threat to the realms when the herald of a god shows up. He is Gorkamorka's dude, to our knowledge. First of all, that's just cool. But secondly, it makes him just a big player. He should be more of a powerful player than he is. And the threat that he represents, as far as just being utterly unwilling to work with anyone else. He cut a Stormcast in half who went to go be an emissary, just to offer peace. Just straight up cut the dude in twain. And then, I don't know. just a cool guy, just a real quality character. Let's see. Oh, I answered your question before. Sam Cook, who was more evil, Nagash or Chaos? Well, my friend, evil is a matter of perspective. But in general, I say Chaos. Because, I guess to me, I don't really think of Nagash as evil. I just think of him as self-righteous and arrogant. That he thinks that he is strong enough to fight the Chaos Gods, but then also that his will is so like absolutely correct that he should be the dominant force. That being said, technically he is the most pure form of order in the realms, in the sense of if he was in total charge, if the Necroquake worked and everyone died and was undead, there would be no fighting, no infighting. Chaos wouldn't have a motion to feed off of. That'd be great. You know, order would be restored in the sense of there's no more chaos. He could fight them all back, and there'd be no inner politics because they're all dead and they all just do what Nagash says. It's just could be a real great time. Okay. Okay. It's coming along. Not my best with the blending, but these little like orb things that are flying around them are like they're not easy to paint. Because one, there's a bajillion of them, but also because they're not like all the feathers and that kind of stuff like on the Griff Charger were at least like the same size and stuff. These are like all different. Some are really long, some are short. Have you heard about the Animosity campaign coming this month? I have, actually. I inquired to my local store about running it, and they just didn't have room for me. Oddly enough, we got booted for an Age of Sigmar Champions tournament, which I was like, what? But yeah, I guess there's enough people here playing locally that they got together and did a tournament. I was like, oh, okay. That is unfortunate timing, but super funny. Sorry you can't play Age of Sigmar. We're doing a derivative game. I was like, definitely had that Ron Burgundy moment where he's just like, I'm not even mad. In fact, I'm actually kind of impressed. What I'm going to do is... Wish AOS champions didn't die among the people who I interact with. Oh, bummer. How's Optimus Prime going? He's going good. I'm doing the swirly doos. And they're coming along. As you can see it there. Painting is harder with cats. Yeah, I locked my cat out of the room. He is a inquisitive little turd. When it comes to like, oh, Papa's painting, time to jump on the table and knock everything off. And with babies. That's funny. Okay. He's coming. It's one of those things. It's kind of like moving a couch, right? It's not hard. It's just time consuming. Second game with Slanesh went swimmingly. Awesome. Excited to hear about it. Let me ask you this, Jack. Do you feel like your shoot cast could beat your Slanesh? Does the Seraphon lore... Oh wait, hold on a second. I missed some questions, I'm sorry. Kayla, why did you pick the Celestial Vindicators? The paint scheme? Yes, it is 100% the paint scheme. I actually owned Stormcast before, but I sort of inherited a paint scheme from the previous owner of the models, because I tend to get most of my stuff used. And it was Hallowed Knights, and I do like the Hallowed Knights. The problem is that, like, they're very low effort for me. Meaning, like, I was cranking through them so quickly because they weren't a challenge to paint at all. I did some fun stuff with like colors and rust effects and that kind of stuff, but honestly I just wasn't having fun with the paint scheme. Personally, anyway. And so, yeah, I got rid of them. And then when I was like, saw this Screaming deal for Stormcast, and I started getting back into the idea of painting them, I was like, if I'm going to paint them just a scheme that I find really striking. And so I was painting a whole bunch of Skaven at the time. And their colors tend to be more drab, at least the ones I went with, like Pestilence and that kind of stuff. I was like, I need a splash of color in my life so I don't go insane. So, yeah. You know, and honestly, part of the problem with that first army, too, I really don't care for the Wave 1 Stormcast models. I just found their poses to be very static. I think it's a shame that they opened the game with them, because if you look at something like the Vanguard Chamber, just everyone's in motion, and then you look at the sacrosanct, and the robes are all flowing as they move towards the enemy. Like, they just look so much more actiony and just exciting to me. And so, like, of the models I own now, the only models I have from the original wave of Stormcast is this boy, and then a bunch of Judicators. And I don't care if they're not in action pose because they're standing still and shooting arrows. Like, that makes perfect sense. But yeah. All right. Now, interspersed, there are these weird little just like globs of things. I'm going to throw some electric blue and maybe even some white in there just to make it look like other stuff's flying around. Oh. Oops, this thing kind of blew out. Shooting arrows is an action pose. Yes, that's what I meant. That's why I don't care about the Judicators. Like, I think they're fine. It's just the rest of their wave run stuff I just didn't really care for. Didn't speak to me. Let's see. Matt Randall, does Seraphon lore work for you? Maybe there's something I'm missing, but it seems meh. Honestly, right now, it is pretty meh. There are a lot of cool ways that they can evolve it. But I understand why you feel that way. 110%. It just, I wouldn't call it meh. I would call it, honestly, because it was one of the first battle tomes that came out, I will say, compared to what we have now, it feels very underdeveloped. And if I'm honest with you, I think a lot of the game was underdeveloped upon the battle tomes coming out. Which honestly, like, in terms of, getting new battle tomes, or like revised battle tomes, I should say, I am certainly way more excited for Seraphon than any of the others. Like, I think other factions might need it more, like, rules-wise, but in terms of lore, I think nothing is as more needed as Seraphon. For two reasons. One, they don't appear in almost any Black Library novels, and so just literally having books where they're present is important. It's just sad that, like, one of those has to be their battle tome. And then in addition to that, because I think their story just really needs to be updated in a big way. Let's see. Wife just got a Slaanesh. She knows be more from me, but watching your videos. Let's see. She's been really into it. Thank you for your quality videos. And Candelonius just subscribed to us on Twitch. How you doing, man? Good to see you again. That is my super awesome coworker. He can attest to the fact that I basically just walk around all day, pushing people aside, ordering them to get me coffee, drinks. I'm like, I'm a YouTuber. You may not know it. I'm a really big deal. Miss anything? I don't think so. All true. Let's see. Kenzie, I have plans for the schemes of other chambers in my Stormcast army. I'm just afraid to pull the trigger. Just do it. Just jump in with both feet. What's nice is if you paint one model at a time, like I've seen you do on the Discord, you'll be all set. My problem is I tend to be like, oh, okay, I think I know what I want to do with the paint scheme, so I just jump in with my batch painting, and then all of a sudden I have like 10 models that I hate the look of. I'm like, How bad did you steamroll them? Bad. Yeah, I think Slanesh is gonna do just fine. Just super duper fine. Let's see. Question: preference of Seraphon staying as Order Demon or changing it to being living beings again? Oh, I mean, as far as like them keeping the demonic thing, or then swapping to having them actually be flesh and blood. Here's the problem. Okay, the problem is they came out the Battle Tome, right, which made them all like, these are just dreams and memories, and they're made of light, and they just kind of fade away after battles and that kind of stuff. And then they came out with a White Dwarf article, and someone asked a question about that to the writers, and so they actually responded in a White Dwarf thing. You actually look it up if you Google White Dwarf response, Seraphon or whatever like that. They actually said, like, no, when they are remembered into existence, that is true physical form. Like, they'll just exist. So he only has to remember them once, so they don't die in battle. They just apparently, I don't know, quote unquote, walk on back onto a ship or something like that. We have no idea. And then you fast forward to Malign's Portents when they had a short story about them coming out of a spawning pool. And so there is the gambit of pure light demons, and then there is the other end of the spectrum of like, they just seem to be created flesh and blood. So the problem is, you ask me my preference, I need something. My preference is come up with something that explains all of that, or just like start from scratch and it's just like, no more questions. This is what it is. Like, that's what I need. So I'm a bit, I don't know. I mean, I like the army. I think they're wonderful models and that kind of stuff. I just, I'm not sure where they're going and where they're taking us, because we've had weird answers before. As far as what I prefer, yeah, like I want something that at least explains everything, or just restarts and is like, you know what? We were smoking some pretty great stuff, so why don't we just back off on all? Yeah, okay. Let's see. And grab. Here we go. I think we need to develop some kind of like industry code for like a mulligan, just to do over. What is the model making industries mulligan code or word, whatever? These are looking pretty good. So if you can see it, it's purple, and the actual orbs that are flying around are, it fades into a pink, and on top. So there's that just kind of swirling around doing all the pink stuff. And then in there's like random gems and jewels. Those are all blue. And it doesn't look like much now, but when I paint all the gold stuff, because in here there are actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these orb things flying around them, and then a whole bunch of like hammers, and there's like looks like a pocket watch. I don't know. So once I paint all those, it'll break up the purple and pink, and so it'll really pop. But I'm going to hold off on the gold until I'm ready to do it for the rest of him. What I need to do before the gold is the white on the shoulder pads and wings. So yeah. Hugh, question, did the Beasts of Chaos have their own battle tome now? Yes, it is called Battle Tome Beasts of Chaos. Because before then, there was no Beast of Chaos. It was just Brayherd, Warherd, and all that jazz. Have the Slon be real ones. Everything else is a Stardust Lizard. You know, there's a lot of ways I can go with it. I don't remember the month that those came out. The Beast of Chaos. Oh. Throw that away. Okay. Or twist it up. Only the skinks are real. That would be amazing. If it was like only the skinks were real and their like collective subconscious created the Slon, who then created everything, like all the other fake stuff, but it was only the skinks who were real. I dig that. I think it was October. I think, because in my timeline of self-loathing, they came out, and I was just starting them when the new year started, so it was definitely fall or winter. When you reach 2+ tough level of status, you gain the ability to set your clock by when you trade armies. All the Slaughter Mummies and the Skinks use Wizards of Oz style. I dig it. Question. Would you rather fight against Skaven or Beast of Chaos? Like with my Stormcast? Any day of the week, Beast of Chaos, because you could beat that army by breathing on it too much. It's not a bad army at all. It's just oops here. Sorry, I need to get my big brush out. That's weird. My big layer brush is missing. Okay, well, I'll be finding that later. They're not a bad army. They just have very little saves, and if you can survive the initial like rush from Brayherd or like that, you're fine. You got it. Rather play against Beastmen because of GW balance. Yeah, the Skaven. They're good. They are real good. Sounds like a challenge to choose Beastmen. Well, just last until 2 turns sounds like a challenge to choose Beastmen. Hey-o! I gotta stop doing that kind of stuff when there's actually like my friends are listening. Funny story about Shoes Beastman is that like twice. So if you don't know, if you're not a subscriber to you don't like battle reports or that, Channel Rerolling Ones, one of those Shoe has a purely war herds like Bulgors and all that kind of stuff. And he loses a lot, but when he wins big. Well, twice he has won big against me. In fact, it's I think the 2 times I played that army. One time they evaporated a 40-man block of zombies back when I had my death army many moons ago. And what was the second time? I can't remember what he beat me. It was a narrative battle report that it made me do a weird deployment and my army kind of got split up. I do remember that. Let's see. Question: what white are you using on the wings? To do white, I base it with Celestar Gray, and then I do, if I need to do a wash or like that to give shadows, or in this case like a colored glaze, and then over that I do Ulthuan Gray, which is one step between this and pure white, and then I do my final edge highlight with White Scar. Brutal Barons. And it'll take 2 to 3 coats to get the white done, with actually each layer. Like Ulthuan Gray is super transparent, Celestar Gray, unless you really like glob it on, which I do not recommend. I find more than any color, white has a higher chance of just kind of like looking crappy. Celestar Gray looks odd on camera. Yeah, it might be. It's kind of more of a fluorescent bulb in the light up there. Plus, it's not really Celestar Gray right now because the blue kind of pokes through a little bit color-wise, and so it's looking a little funky. Use Screaming Skull. Use Screaming Skull for what layer? Let's see. Democles, hi, hello. Kenzie, so talk like that is why you haven't been on rerolling ones lately. No, my lack of painted army is why I haven't been on rerolling ones lately. Shu, Jack, and Brent can deliver tough talk and smack with the best of them, with varying amounts of profanity based on which one of them it is. Let's see. 2+ stuff? More like 2+ armies a week. Yeah, that's me. Can you imagine if I had an airbrush? I'd be unstoppable. Okay. As the last? I'll think about that one. Because usually I do White Scars when I last one. That's like the pure white. Looks nice. Kenzie, so I'm going to be doing silver, dark blue, and white on my Warrior Chamber Stormcasts. From the realm of metal. Question, how would I distinguish them from Hallowed Knights? So you say silver, dark blue, and white. So you want the main body to be silver still? That's kind of my first question. Just because Tempest Lords also have silver, dark blue, and a little bit of white. It just started pouring outside. It's like, what's that sound? Let's see. Why not play an unpainted Bretonnia army with rerolling ones and call it Grey Knights? Oh my god, it's amazing. That should. We need to do an intro like that. Have the oh, what's the band? There goes my hero. Playing as the guy picks up his models and walks home because nobody wants to play with him. Because his life is a pun. John, who's the biggest trash talker then? Biggest trash talker. I feel like it's between me and Jack. Jack, if you're in the chat, can you verify who's the biggest trash talker in our group? I feel like I do because I know I don't have to back it up. Because I don't ever actually play. I just make videos all day. I feel like I have the biggest mouth. With like tournament wins and that kind of stuff, but I definitely think I am a bigger turd. Let's see. Foo Fighters, thank you. Question: where is the Dragon Ogres in AOS? Oh, and what are they doing? They're just chilling. Basically, they used to originally live in Azir. They have a big lightning theme to them, of all things. And when Sigmar came into power in the realm of heavens, Azir, pretty much his first order of business was like, get these flippin' goats out of here. And so he kicked out the Dragon Ogres into the rest of the mortal realms, and they are mad about that. And right now they live on high mountain tops, and whenever they feel the urge, they rush down to civilization and just destroy it, just because they're mad. And eventually they're going to try and find a way to get back into Azir, their homeland. Which is interesting because it's a cool thing that I really enjoyed when I did the reviews of that book, because it paints a picture where, you know, in all the lore we see like, oh, the gods are so tied to their realms. Like Alariel like made Giran in her image and that kind of stuff. But then when you think about the fact that like Beasts of Chaos were there before the gods woke up. Okay, so they are separate and distinct. They just have this intrinsic, you know, essence that's tied to the realm, but they are not the same thing. So I don't know. I think it's interesting. Let's see. They aren't chaos lined? Yes, they are. I assume you're talking about Dragon Ogres. Let's see. Question. Prediction on who's locked in the Storm Vault in Forbidden Power. I'm gonna say maybe a Soulblight Vampire. I'm gonna laugh if it's just like something completely out of left field, like, I don't know, just like a Smith for Sigmar who was like, yeah, I thought I would just hang in there, fell asleep, and then they locked me in by accident. And we're like building up all these mystery theories. It's just some dude. I'm Herald. I sharpen swords for Sigmar. Fell asleep for a couple centuries. Okay, this boy's taking shape. 1 second. Okay, sorry, I had a paintbrush in my mouth. Let's see. Tomb Kings. Michael Hammond says all of them. Just literally the entire model range is just chilling in his Storm Vault. That's awesome. Question: do you think they'll ever reintroduce Krokgar in AOS since he survived the old times? I doubt it if they haven't already, but you know, like, I really do want them to give a full lore rewrite to Seraphon, so I would really not be opposed to that. Personally, I'm not a big fan of named characters. But I understand that's not, you know, some are just fan favorites. People just really like them. And that is totes cool. Okay. Alright, friends. I'm going to cut the stream here and go have a very late dinner with the missus. And I'll be back on when it's all said and done. So, keep hopping, keep hanging. I'll be back here when... I have to wait for all this to dry anyway before I can do anything more. But, hope to see you all soon. I'll talk to you later.